Blame for the loss.
All right, so Luka, this guy is an offense unto himself who has never been good, let alone great defensively.
Sure.
Who come the playoffs, teams are more able to scheme it, hunt him, design their offense about getting him in switches, getting him in the action, maybe getting him in foul trouble. And it culminated in him losing his temper a bit, in him getting frustrated, and him fouling out of a critical game, finals game.
Yes.
That is what happened last night with Luka, and it is also what happened to Steph Curry 8 years ago. In Game 6. Now, Luka didn't throw his mouthpiece, and no one in Luka's family accused the league of being rigged, but it all happened.
Okay.
In a similar circumstance of this guy whose offense is what creates everything, but defensively can be picked on at that point in Steph's career more so than now.
Sure.
And so
this is unbelievable. Nick Wright takes pride in being a whole debate expert, and what he's doing is unbelievable. What Steph Curry's doing right, what he did has nothing to do with what Luka's doing. If he was in an actual formal debate, they would hit the buzzer and say, whoa, what are you talking about? We're not talking about this. Like, he's trying to play the shell game right now. I mean, it's just debate 101. I honestly am shocked that he's doing this, and I shouldn't be. But I thought like his whole thing is, because I've heard him talk about this on a podcast, that he's really great at debating, and I thought that he maybe meant that in a little bit more of a formal way. This is just a sketchy debate tactic. This has nothing to do with anything. This happened with Steph Curry. That was a one-off with Steph Curry. Steph Curry doesn't complain to the refs incessantly, okay? He doesn't put his team at a disadvantage because he's yelling at the refs, and now the Warriors are forced to play 5-on-4 defensively. That's what Luka does. Luka has been carrying on and crying to the refs every 5 seconds, and it's a major problem. The Mavericks organization know it's a major problem. I'm going to play you another clip from Windhorst talking about that, because it's what I've been saying now for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, months really. And everyone started yelling at me and saying, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. And lo and behold, I was right. And he actually stopped complaining, and that helped him when he was playing against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And surprise, surprise, they won. And then he regressed back to the old Luka, and then here you go. So it's just I can't believe Nick just did that. I'm actually stunned. I genuinely am stunned.
heavy is the head that wears the metaphorical crown or the crown or whatever it is. Luka needs to be better. And we will discuss later, think he needs to be better offensively more than he needs to be better defensively, because the Mavs are not losing this series because of defense. They're losing this series because of offense. What is frustrating to me, and I reached out to Windy this morning because I adore him and I think he's certainly on the current Mount Rushmore of respected basketball voices.
Sure.
I thought the table was set for Feast on Luka Day today in a way that was not fair to his performance or him fouling out. Because the reason I brought up Steph was we have seen something incredibly similar. Now, Steph had already won a championship, which obviously buys you a lot. I understand.
And his reputation has been pristine. He has been a team player, a great leader, praised around the league, and respected by the refs, and doesn't bark at them every 5 seconds.
Understand that. And that was Steph's game, was to win a championship. This was kind of to avoid losing a championship. It's not 1-to-1, but it is not unprecedented what we saw.
Unbelievable.
And listen, he needs to get back on defense. That I had a big, like the yelling at the refs and then letting 5-on-4s happen can't happen in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
I also think he gets a bad whistle, but I think some of that is his own doing. Because refs are human, and he is always going after them.
Always.
But I don't think he gets a good whistle befitting his status in the league, and I don't think we typically see a superstar get 4 fourth-quarter fouls, at least 3 of which were coin flip calls. So I understand some of the frustration.
They were not. We all know JJ Redick loves Luka. Loves Luka, has him on the podcast, all of that. JJ Redick shoots from the hip. There's no denying that. He's not carrying water for the NBA or ABC, ESPN, wherever. He even said 2 tough calls, and it's the right call. He put it on Luka. And listen, I don't take JJ Redick's word as God, but he is honest. There's no disputing that. And again, Luka is his dude. He praises him every 5 seconds he can, and there's other times that I felt like he was carrying water for Luka in previous games, more like previous series. And here he was like, no, like they're tough calls, but they are the right calls. So and again, it's just that's JJ Redick. So it's like Nick can't ever just overcome that. I had to eat crow. I said that the Minnesota Timberwolves were going to beat the Dallas Mavericks, and they did not. And I had to eat crow, and I admitted that Luka matured. I said that. I said, I'm very impressed. Luka matured. Kyrie stepped up as a leader. I said all the things that I said that I said what weren't going to happen, happened. And it's just like he can't admit that. You know, and it's just kind of crazy to me at this point in your career to not be able to accept that or admit that, quite honestly. It just doesn't make sense to me. And you know, and in a lot of ways I feel validated because, like I said, I was getting attacked by Dallas Mavericks fans again and again and again, saying, oh, you're wrong, and all this type of stuff. And it was just like, here I am being proven 100% correct. And now let me show you the clip. I'll go back and show a little bit more of the First Things First clip, but this is what Windhorst had to say. Can't say his name right now. Let's bring it up. He goes off on Luka. And exactly what I've been saying.
Meanwhile, Dallas, this is their first time on this stage. Luka and Kyrie combined for actually more than Tatum and Brown did, but Luka fouls out late. I just wonder your reaction to that whole sequence.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect that Luka fell onto the ground there in an unacceptable position to put himself in with 4 minutes left with 5 fouls, and then immediately looks at the bench and says, you better bleeping challenge it, as if it's the bench's fault that he just made a terrible play. I'm standing here in the Mavericks tunnel. Over there is the Celtics tunnel. That's where the winners are. If Luka's ever going to be a winner coming out of this tunnel here, he is going to have to use what's happened in this finals as a learning experience. His defensive performance is unacceptable. He is a hole on the court. The Celtics are attacking him. They are ahead in this series because they have attacked him defensively. And you've got a situation here where Luka is complaining about the officiating. They have begged him. They have talked with him. They have pleaded with him. He is costing his team because of how he treats the officials. He's a brilliant player. He does so many things well. They are here because of how he did. His performance in this game is unacceptable, and the reason why the Mavericks are not going to win. He's got to get over this. And the fact that he came out after the game and blamed the officials showed me he's nowhere close yet. So maybe over the summer, somebody will get to him because nobody with the Mavericks or anybody else in his life has. And that's where the Mavericks are at this point. They're never going to get to this tunnel with the trophy if he doesn't improve those aspects of his game.
Yep, and that's exactly what I've been saying. And both things can be true. You can say that Luka is an unbelievable player, which is what I said. I kept saying that he's one of the best players in the NBA and will retire as one of the best players in the NBA history. Luka is unbelievable and amazing. Yet you can still say that this is a problem and that this is holding him back, and there's no excuse for it. Zero excuse for it. Even Steph Curry has a reason for why he's more of a defensive liability. The dude's, nothing. The guy's like, as light as a feather. Luka is a grown man. He is a big boy. He is a monster. So, get out of here with this nonsense. There's no excuse for Luka. It's all his immaturity and his unwillingness to grow and mature and listen to coaching. And that's what I said about Kid. I said, Luka needs a true big alpha to get him in line. And then again, people did not like that line at all, which is fine. But again, I'm proving to be right here. So it's just crazy to me. Let's see what other nonsense they have to say here.
But yes, he needs to be better. Is he the reason they lost? No. He's the reason they're there. And he was the second best Mav yesterday. He needs to be better. But this whole let's reevaluate Luka Doncic today, I think is too much. I think it's too much.
It's not too much because this is what happens. Jason Tatum has had to go through this, and he's not as good as Luka. But LeBron James, who's better than Luka or in his prime, has had to go through this. This is what it is. All right, now, I'm going to address his defense. His defense is atrocious. His defense is atrocious. And I know he gets some steals. He's leading the Mavs in steals now with almost 2.5 a game. But that's not indicative of great defense. You mentioned it, Nick, and here he is. The complaining and the bad defense like here he is just not even running hard. All right, and here he is after
This
a shot.
one was awful.
I don't even know if he got hit. He falls. He's complaining. They're just running back, scoring as he's sitting there. Now he gets there. And then here's another one. Again, I don't even think he got hit. He's trying to buy a call, and he's just sitting there. He's the last man back, or supposed to be. But because he fell, Jason Tatum's there all alone and gets a dunk. So the defense is bad, and I saw on Second Spectrum this morning.
The blow-bys are crazy.
The blow-bys are not crazy. They're historically crazy. All right, 67% of their drive, they're blowing by him 67% of the time, which is the most of any player in the last 10 years of the postseason. 10 years, all right? So the defense is bad. And you mentioned it, the complaining. We know NBA players are notorious for complaining to the refs, but Luka is off the charts in it. He's got to get better at that. But to even hint that he is the reason they lost this game or are down 3-0 in this series is insane.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're only there because of Luke. No, they are a 2 and sometimes one-man team. That's what they are. And they are being exposed for that right now. Some of that is personnel. Some of that is the way they play, their style, their scheme. But they're a 1 or a 2-man team when Kyrie's got it going. All right? And Luka Doncic is that team. Even last night, Nick, when he had a bad game, right? He had a minus of +9.
So that's
all right. No other Maverick starter had a positive +minus.
So because before, just real quick, I just want to dive into that because that is my other frustration. Is I am not acting as if the guy is beyond reproach, and to your point. When you are playing for the stakes of, is he going to be the best player in the world? You are obviously held to a very high standard. But someone explained to me that in that game last night, the 38 minutes Luka Doncic was on the court, the Mavs won by 9.
Yes.
The 10 minutes he sat, they lost by 16. Now, that is an argument as to why he can't foul out.
Yeah.
That part is totally fair. But the narrative today has been, you can't win because of his defensive deficiencies, which does not square with the fact when he plays, you won. Last night, what we're talking about, and we can talk about the other numbers later. The problem for the Mavs has been their offense, to my eye and to the data, I feel. But I feel like
check this out. We talked about the plus-minus last night. The only one with a positive plus. This is for the series. He's a -4. Every other Mav Washington's closest at -13. The rest of them are in the -20s.
I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is infinite right now in 6 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, these are just the guys that are getting decent minutes. And so, again, it is a bridge too far.
Is it Daniel Gafford's fault?
No, my point is, it's like saying Michael Jackson is the problem with the Jackson 5. I mean, really. Luka Doncic is the team. With all due respect to Kyrie Irving, he's the team. So to say he's the reason they're down 3-0, he's the reason that they lost last night, we showed you the plus-minus. It's crazy.
Okay, so the last thing that I want to emphasize is, because there was another clip, but I'm not going to play it, with Kendrick Perkins, where he says Luka is failing the Dallas Mavericks. And that I disagree with. That I wholeheartedly disagree with. Because as much as I lay down all that blame and criticism towards Luka, my opinion is exactly what Brew actually just said, right? Like my opinion, I am 100% in line with what Brew is. Like, they are there because of Luka. Like, Luka is carrying that team. That's why I said earlier, both things can be true. We can say Luka is great, Luka is doing all this stuff, but also Luka is also holding them back. So he's both paddling forward and paddling backwards. That's where Luka is. And when you do that, you just keep going in a circle. So, and again, both things can be true. And it's okay to admit both things are true. We can admit for the Sixers that the Sixers are there because of Joel Embiid, but they also can't win because of Joel Embiid, right? Like many things can be true at once. It doesn't have to be one or the other, left or right. It can be both, okay? That's the reality. So I just don't understand why it's so hard to have like an honest discussion around Luka. Like it's very bizarre to me. It doesn't really make any sense to me. But again, to emphasize, Luka is a great player. He's the reason why the Dallas Mavericks are even in the finals to begin with, but he is also the reason why, and a huge part, he may not be the biggest why, but he is a big contributor as to why they can't go further or get over that hump. I mean, and it's just it's a reality. There's a reason why the entire Dallas Mavericks organization has tried to talk to Luka, to try to like wake him up, to try to get him to stop complaining. Playing 5-on-4 in basketball is impossible. That's why the game has gotten so fast now, because they know that if they can execute their teams offensively quickly and have the teams not get back in time, it's a major advantage. Major. That's why rebounding has changed also. That's why there's not a lot of these offensive rebounds, because they know they have to rush back on defense. That's how the game has evolved over the years. And so you're seeing that with Luka, just like saying, like, I'm just not going to get back. I'm just going to continue to bark at refs again and again and again. And honestly, part of the blame goes to the NBA and the refs for not teeing him up, for not making that stop already. And no matter who it is, Luka, Draymond, doesn't matter who, they let these players bark and scream at these refs nonstop throughout the game, and it's insane to me. The fact that the NBA has not put an end to that makes zero sense to me. Zero. You can't do that on the NFL field. You definitely can't do that. You don't see that. You see some barking occasionally, but it's not a thing. It's not part of the game, no matter how egregious it is. They don't yell and yell and yell and carry on to the refs. It's not a thing. It doesn't happen, really. Seriously, you watch a whole game. You watch 3 hours of football. You watch 10 games on a Sunday, and you never see it. But yet, in basketball, it's like totally a thing. They can just bark and bark and bark. And it's bad business. It's bad. It's a bad product to watch. It's not. I don't find it enjoyable, personally. I don't. It's very hard for me to get behind a player who's just yelling at the refs nonstop. It's just not enjoyable to watch. The other thing that I wanted to say real quickly is that about Nick, because I kind of went off on Nick earlier. Again, I feel like every time I go off on Nick too hard, I want to emphasize that I really respect his opinion. I respect his intelligence, his ability to formulate arguments, even if I disagree with him. But he knows, bringing up Steph Curry to this argument, like, he knows exactly what he did. He knows that in any actual true debate forum, which again he takes pride in, he knows that that is wrong. He knows it. And he would call it out if it was the opposing. He does it all the time. He yells at Wild and says, "Why are you bringing up Trevor Lawrence?" Like, he always does that. He always yells at Brew or whoever and says, "Why are we bringing up Brock Purdy now? What does this have to do with anything?" And that's exactly what he did with Steph Curry. So that's why I called it out. But I don't want you to think that, I'm trying to just bash on Nick Wright just because I disagree with him. There's a difference between disagreeing with him and pointing it out as to why versus just, being a hater or just bashing someone for the sake of bashing them. So I wanted to emphasize that as well. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think Luka is the biggest reason the Mavs lost, or do you think his impact on the loss is being overblown? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.